In this video I will talk about my Sleipner Side-Power SE50 bow thruster installation and what I think about that product. I don't know if I have to mention it, but I do it anyways. I'm not paid to do this review, this is my own opinion, and I'm not affiliated with Sleipner whatsoever. I didn't make a tutorial video for this particular installation. If you're looking for an in-depth tutorial on how to install a bow thruster, I will link some of those videos in the description below. So, why do you want a bow thruster in a sailboat in the first place? For some sailboat owners, this is a bit of a loaded topic. The arguments against it are that you might lose half a knot or even worse in speed. You add additional weight to the boat and the technical complexity is there, of course. On the other hand, single-handed docking gets a lot easier. Especially if you often take people with you who are not used to sailboats or boats in general. Very narrow harbors get a lot easier to navigate, and this added convenience was what finally convinced me to put up the work and the money to install a bow thruster in this boat. So, how did I choose the SE50 from Sleipner Side-Power? A lot of sailboats have the same problem if they want to install a bow thruster. The bow is relatively flat and shallow in the water. That is a good thing when you are sailing because you have very little drag there, but on the other hand, if you want to install a bow thruster, you have not very much depth to go to install the tunnel. There are two pretty much standard tunnel sizes and not much in between. 125 mm for the smaller one and 185 mm for the bigger one. You can obviously fit a motor with greater power to the bigger tunnel size. But then your boat might be relatively shallow in the bow and you have to mount the bow thruster further aft. That in turn reduces the effect of the bow thruster. The smaller tunnel you can mount further forward. But then you are limited by the size of motor and its power output, which you can mount on the tunnel. While researching this, I found that Sleipner has an intermediate size, which is 140 mm for tunnel diameter. At that tunnel size, they offer a motor which gives you 50 kilograms of thrust at 10.5 volts, namely the Sleipner Side-Power SE50. After I did my measurements here in the boat on what I could fit into the bow, I found out that this would be an optimal match. If you want to know how to measure the waterline inside your boat exactly while your boat is still in the water, I made a video about it and will link it here. Apart from that, Sleipner has a very good reputation around here, so I went for their product. But let's take a look at the product. What comes with the SE50? You have the motor unit, which weighs approximately 15 kilograms. Then you have the drive shaft and the connection bracket for mounting the motor inside onto the tunnel, and of course the propeller. In order to install the bow thruster you need a bunch of other stuff, so let's take a look at that. Of course you need to have a tunnel, which you have to order separately. For the SE50 the tunnel wall strength is at least 5.2 mm. Then you will need epoxy and glass fiber cloth. To control the bow thruster you need of course a control panel. I chose the most simple one with just 5 buttons. One for port, one for starboard, 2 for on and 1 for off. To connect the control panel to the thruster you will need a control cable. I ordered the one from Sleipner, but I have to say that you probably can use off-brand copper cable. You can potentially connect any cable lug to the bow thruster, so you don't need the plastic connector. Then you need at least a main fuse. I chose an automatic main fuse from Sleipner. Of course you will need cables for the power supply, and depending on your installations there are recommendations in the manual for the diameter. I chose to power my thruster with a separate battery. That reduces the necessary cable diameter, but you might need an additional charger. So let's take a look at my installation. I have to say it is a lot of work. You have to be very precise and it is definitely not something for the faint-hearted. I mean, you cut 2 melon-sized holes inside your boat. Then you cast a tunnel and pray that everything is watertight. It definitely helps to know what you are doing or know somebody who has installed one before. Even just a second pair of eyes can be really reassuring. Let's take a look at the completed installation. The most central part, the thruster motor mounted on the cast-in tunnel. By just removing these two screws here by hand without any tools, you can get easy access to the main relay of the motor. Then right in front of the thruster we have the main battery, which is supplying all the power. It is charged by this separate charger. And if you wonder what these markings there are, they are the remnants of when I was casting in the tunnel, and they count the layer of fiberglass and epoxy I used on each side. In front of the battery there is mounted the automatic main switch and a separate switch to control the charger. The battery box itself I made out of plywood, epoxy and some fiberglass. Then I mounted it with Tech 7 to the hull. You might ask now, why the need for a separate charger? Well, as soon as the bow thruster is running, it is supplied by the auxiliary battery we have here. Current flows through these large diameter cables to the thruster and supplies it with energy. Let's assume we have no separate charger installed, and these cables here for charging lead directly to the alternator or our battery charger in the boat. As soon as the voltage drops in the auxiliary battery, the bow thruster will try to satisfy its demands through these cables here, which have a lot less diameter. That in turn could lead to an overheating of these thinner cables. This is essentially prevented by the separate charger because it outputs at most 18 amperes. Since I don't need access to the main fuse for normal operation, I installed it behind this little nice door here and can make an emergency shut off like this. Since during charging batteries can potentially emit hydrogen gas, I fitted a ventilation here. So what is my rating of the Sleipner Side-Power SE50 bow thruster? Let's start with the good stuff. The performance is absolutely enough for me. Recently I had to dock in 10 knots of wind straight from land, and it worked incredibly nice. One push on a button and the nose goes immediately into the direction you want it to go. The noise level is acceptable for me. I have definitely heard a lot louder thrusters around here in the marina. And I couldn't recognize a loss of speed while motoring or while sailing. But this might be also because I'm usually not at my maximum speed since I'm not racing. I can't say anything yet to the long-term quality of the product. The motor and the drive shaft seem at least to be very sturdy. What I like a lot is that everything is really easy accessible on the motor. If there should be anything wrong with a relay or with a motor, I can easily access, repair or replace it. Another feature which I value really a lot is that the motor is completely electrically isolated from the drive shaft. That means there's virtually no chance of any corrosion due to stray currents. As for the negative things, it is mostly that the manual is often a bit thin in its descriptions. I think they could have made a better job in describing the installation process. Other manufacturers have way more detailed manuals and have more updated videos online. So I hope this video helped you reach a conclusion if this product is for you. If you liked it, please press like and consider subscribing. And thanks for watching.